Hi everyone. For your rhetorical analysis, I'm going to require that you use a thesis statement. Now, I'm not a huge fan of thesis statements, but I understand their purpose. They keep you on track. They're like a promise that you make to a reader. You tell a reader up front, this is the journey that you're going to take in this essay, and if that journey is one that the reader wants to take, it feels compelling to them, it can be a really useful navigation guide to a reader. So I guess I understand their purpose. I'm not personally a fan of thesis statements because I think they can oversimplify really complicated topics. And they kind of get like a paint by numbers kind of thing. X number of words for a thesis statement. This word does this word does this. I don't know. That's not what really writing is all about for me. But you're going to be in classes where faculty members are going to demand or expect that you're going to know what a thesis statement is and what it should look like. So I'm going to require one for the rhetorical analysis. A few things about a thesis statement. One, a thesis statement is an argument. It is something that can be debated. Arguments are not facts and they're not opinions. It's a fact that 97% of climate scientists agree that the warming trends that we're experiencing are due to human activities. The science is pretty clear on that. So that's not really something that's terribly debatable. What is debatable is what should be done about it. What is the role that government should take? What is the role that the private sector should take? What role businesses have? Those are definitely debatable, and we debate them all the time. Maybe not enough, but those things are definitely arguments that you could have. Opinions are also not arguments. When I say something like, the Alabama Crimson Tide is a far superior team compared to the overrated Ohio State University Buckeyes, that feels true to me. It feels really true. But it's just an opinion. It's not an argument. So an argument has a few components. One, there's a subject. There's a topic that you're arguing about. That's kind of a no-duh thing. Two, there's a claim. There's something debatable about that subject. There's something that you're arguing, or that there's a claim or something that people can disagree about that subject. Three, there's supporting reasons, kind of like the reasons why you think that that is true or why you think that that argument is correct. The because, if you can answer the because statements, you're starting to think about reasons. Four, you need supporting evidence to support your claim. So you put those four things together and you have an argument. A thesis statement just summarizes your paper's argument. That's really what a thesis statement does. It just kind of puts in a package, this is what you're going to try and do in a paper. So for an assignment like the rhetorical analysis, your argument needs to be about how rhetoric is used to persuade in the speech that you're analyzing. So again, it's not a fact like MLK tried to persuade white clergy members in Letter from Birmingham Jail. Again, that's kind of a no-duh thing. An argument is something we can debate. So maybe you argue that MLK effectively used guilt and shame to persuade white clergy members in Letter from Birmingham Jail. Now you're on to something. Now you're on to something. A thesis statement for this assignment looks a little bit like this. So here's an example of a thesis statement that you might use for an assignment like the rhetorical analysis. So Ida Wells effectively uses arrangement, emotion, and an appeal to credibility to persuade a mostly white audience that lynching was an issue they needed to care about. Kind of generic, kind of blah, but it has the main components that you need for a thesis statement for this kind of an assignment. So you need a subject. So Ida Wells, and I might add lynch law in all its phases. So Ida Wells, lynch laws in all its phases. Put quotation marks around that. Effectively uses arrangement, emotion, and an appeal to credibility to persuade a mostly white audience that lynching was an issue they need to care about. What's the subject? Here's the subject of that kind of essay. Next, you need the claim. What is the thing that's debatable? And so in this sentence, what's the part that we might kind of disagree about? Well, we might disagree about whether or not the word effectively should be there. We can say, I don't know if she was all that effective. I might say she was less than effective or something like that. So effectively persuade. The next component that I'm kind of looking for in a thesis statement is that we see the reasons. I also call it the roadmap. So it's kind of like how are you going to go? Where are you going to go in order to support that? Like, what are the topics or ideas that you're going to talk about to help you get there? And it's this right here. That's the roadmap, or the reasons. So we have subject, claim, and roadmap. And that's really kind of the basics of a thesis statement for an assignment like the rhetorical analysis. For this assignment, a thesis statement needs to have an argument, and it needs to explain what rhetorical issues you're going to look at in order to support your argument. It should also acknowledge the audiences that you're going to address. This is particularly important for those of you, actually for all three speeches. I was thinking it's particularly important for MLK, but it's really important for all three of these speeches because they have multiple audiences. MLK was appealing to white clergy members and folks in middle-class communities, mostly white folks that were kind of on the fence about racial issues in the 1960s, but there were also black folks that he was thinking about when he was writing. There were also folks like in government that he was kind of writing to, and I think that you could argue the same for Malcolm X and definitely for Ida B. Wells. So there's multiple audiences. So pick the audience that you are particularly focused on in your rhetorical analysis. One thing to kind of steer you away from, generic audience is kind of a BS thing. There's no such thing as really a generic audience, and particularly not for these kinds of speeches. Other ideas to keep in mind is that a thesis statement typically shows up at the end of an introductory paragraph. Why there? Well, you're talking to readers who may not know anything about a topic that you are going to be arguing about. So you need to spend some time going from where they are to introducing the topic and why it matters, and then by the end of that introductory paragraph, you're explaining where they're going to go. It also typically doesn't come at the end of an essay because you want the reader to know and have a sense and prepare them for where the argument is going to go later in the essay. That's why it's typically at the end of the body paragraph. The rest of an introduction in a rhetorical analysis, you could provide some contextual information that would be helpful in understanding where your analysis is going to go. Not just kind of giving or providing a history lesson, but really providing information about the audience, providing information about the speech, the occasion that the speaker was speaking at, or giving some background information if it is relevant to your analysis, not just if it's relevant to the speech as a whole. That's really important to kind of keep in mind. You could write a page and a half or 2 pages that would just kind of bullshit and tell us some historical context, but it may not matter to your analysis. The contextual information that you provide needs to matter to the analysis. If you're kind of narrowing down what kind of audiences that you're thinking about, the introduction might be a good place to talk about those audiences and the people that were there and were deciding whether or not Ida B. Wells, Malcolm X, or Martin Luther King were persuasive. So that kind of information could be helpful. Keep in mind, thesis statement, kind of summarize here. It's a subject, you're arguing about something, you've got a claim about that subject, and then you've got roadmaps, you've got the reasons. Kind of provides a way for a reader to understand what's going to come up in the paper. When I write using thesis statements, I will take the thesis statement and I will place it in the header of my document. And what that does is it reminds me this is what my essay is about and I need to focus on that. So if I'm doing something in page 5 and I'm kind of writing and going off, and I take a look at the thesis statement and I take a look at what I'm writing on page 5, and if I can ask myself, what am I writing here? Does it relate to that thesis statement in my header? And if I go like, I don't know, maybe, that probably means that I'm bullshitting and I need to get it out of there. So thesis statement can be helpful for that reason. Put it in the header of your document, put it on a post-it note and put it next to your screen. It can help you stay focused. And remember, a thesis statement is what you're promising to the reader. So I'm going to be taking a look to make sure that you are backing up that thesis statement and you're supporting it. All right, that's it for now. I will talk to you all soon, and I hope you all have a great weekend.